He has a nose for news and a face for radio. You're listening to Price's Highway, the podcast, with your host, Steve Price. Buckle up, Spring Hill Metroplex, and enjoy the ride.
Rippavilla Plantation may have a new battle on its hands, and it's involving its contract with the city. More and more transplants from all over the country now call our area home. Hear what they're saying about it. Learn about 2 terrible events that changed the landscape of Spring Hill's downtown. Plus, we're discussing the 3 Bs: body training, baseball, and barbecue with Mr. Barbecue himself, Chris Davis. These stories and much, much more right here on Price's Highway, the podcast. Giddy up, let's do this thing.
You're listening to Price's Highway, presented by Price Sells Homes. Don't think twice. Call Carrie Price at 615-497-3317. That's 615-497-3317. Now back to the podcast.
Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Price's Highway, the podcast. If you haven't joined the Facebook group already, you need to do that. It's facebook.com/groups/Price's Highway. Click that join button and would love to have you. In fact, the latest question, well, it's not really the latest question. One of the questions I asked earlier was, have you moved here from other parts of the country? Well, even the world. Besides climate, what are some of the most significant differences, good and bad, that may have surprised you? Well, Reagan wrote, traffic, infrastructure worse here than in Texas and Indiana. Well, I can kind of vouch for Texas. I like how in Texas they have that feeder road that goes along the interstate. If you've never seen one of these, it's great. So if there's a bad accident on the interstate, you're not stuck for hours and hours. You can get off the next ramp and you are kind of on your way. You get stoplights and all that, so traffic backs up, but it's nothing like just being stuck on the interstate like you are in most states, including Tennessee. All right, let's see who else wrote in. It looks like Jessica. She's from California. She came years ago. But I remember the things that surprised us the most. The bugs. Had never seen such mutant creatures. And the people you don't know around here wave hello to you. Ben writes, much better job opportunities than in Northwest Iowa. And Price's Highway. Hey, thanks for the shout out. Unfortunately, no Pizza Ranch down here. Oh, man. Listen, folks, this is something we need. We need a Pizza Ranch. If you've never gone to a Pizza Ranch, your life will be changed. When I was up in Wisconsin, I went to a Pizza Ranch, and the pizza was okay. I mean, it's not the greatest stuff in the world, but the chicken. Yeah, it's pizza and fried chicken. Well, it's not fried chicken, I should say. It's roasted chicken, and this stuff is incredible. Plus, they have cherry Coke in the fountain drink. Yeah. And it's not one of those new weird Coke machines, the Freeform or whatever that is, where you get the flavors from the last person who was... No, none of this. It's the real stuff, real cherry Coke, great roasted chicken, and the pizza is okay as well. So, yes, Ben, you are right. We do need a Pizza Ranch, and unfortunately, we don't have one. Here's Deb. Deb writes, just moved here from California. Traffic worse than I thought it would be. But folks are nice and barbecue food is delicious. Well, why not do one more? Let's go. Janelle, she writes, moved here from Florida 2.5 years ago. People use turn signals here and are way nicer. Love the different seasons. Traffic about the same. All right, everybody. Now we have Peter Hartzell. He's a transplant from, where are you from, Montana?
Yeah, Missoula, Montana.
Oh, it's beautiful this time of year, isn't it?
Yes, about this time of year is when it gets really pretty. Well, actually, it depends on how much snow. Usually it's either really pretty or a lot of slush and not really pretty.
How much snow do you usually get around this time?
Well, Missoula is in a valley, and so we get a lot of accumulation in the mountains around the valley, and then a lot of the snow that melts and kind of makes its way into the streets. And I would say it really depends. A lot of times people think it's really cold where I came from, but because we're in a valley, we're kind of shielded from a lot of the extreme systems. So when we moved to Tennessee, watching storms roll in was a kind of a new thing for me.
Oh, really?
I mean, I did spend some time, lived in Kansas City for a little while, and my dad's folks are in Minneapolis area, so I was aware that you could watch a storm front roll in, but not living with it. And then coming here in the springtime, the first storm system in 2015 was pretty intense, and being able to watch those systems roll in and progress and then move on was pretty awesome. So.
Well, very cool. Hey, you commented on this Facebook post I posted. Imagine that post that I posted.
And we talked about it too. Hey, we should post this. Let's post it and see what people say.
There you go. All right. So before we get into that, just kind of tell the audience who you are, what you do, that kind of thing. How long you've lived here?
I am your biggest competition in the city. That's what I do. I am just right in your heels, nipping it all.
Isn't that? See, that's what kind of guy I am. I bring on the competition.
Exactly. You keep your enemies close, right?
That's right.
My wife and I moved here in 2015 in February from Western Montana. I was born and raised in Missoula. My wife was born in Florida. We met when I was in high school. She's 3 years younger than me. So met at church, the classic American story, and fell in love after a few years of just being aware of each other. She was kind of friends with my sisters, and but we kind of just knew that we'd end up together. And I went to audio production school, got my certification in recording engineering, and then came to Nashville to shadow some engineers on Music Row, and figured out really quickly that I did not want to get stuck in a mixing situation for the rest of my life. I love music. I'm a musician, and I love the process of creating music, but I knew that there were bigger and better things that I wanted to do. So I spent a lot of time learning about marketing, went to school for business administration, marketing, and media arts. So I kind of I wear a lot of different hats. And then in 2014-ish, really realized that I'd hit my ceiling, and I was having a hard time going to the next level. And I was working for my dad at the time, which was awesome. I learned a lot, and he gave me a lot of opportunity to grow. But I figured out it was time for me to kind of kick myself out and do my own thing for a while and see if I could make it. So we moved here, and man, it's just been awesome the last 4 or 5 years.
So you wrote in, you're saying, okay, we've already established that you moved here from Montana a little over 5 years ago.
Yep.
We've made a lot of fast friends.
Lots of fast friends. Yeah, man, I felt like we had a lot of friends. I was like, man, we are rocking this thing. We've just moved to town, and we have all these great friends, and we're being invited to dinners and getting to know people. But then I realized that pretty quick that it kind of just stopped at that point. And when we started trying to go deeper in the friendships or the relationships, that there was a real kind of gracious pause. And we are glad you're here, but we don't want to go that much deeper yet.
Scratch that veneer.
Exactly. And that's been totally fine, because we've been able to, and I will say too, that a lot of the people that we have gone deeper with since we've been here have all been transplants. They've all been people from like the Northeast or the Northwest, that have been looking for the same kind of thing. They wanted to have friends or establish relationships, but just weren't able to go much deeper. So I think that is changing, and Nashville is such a melting pot, and there's so many people from so many different areas, but there sure are a lot of people here still that are second, third, fourth generation Tennesseans or from the South. And Southerners are great at welcoming. They're great at making you feel welcome. My wife said when we first moved to town, it's funny, she said, I was expecting fruit baskets and, all this stuff. And it wasn't like that, Southern hospitality wasn't quite like that. But in another way, it sort of was, in that we were able to shake a lot of hands and get a lot of good feelings, but not go too deep in the friendship department. So that was something we were really looking for. And I think through finding a church and getting plugged in with a community of people that were kind of our age, that had kids that were our age, really did help as well.
So would you say to the audience who was listening in, who aren't transplants, we enjoy your politeness, but let's go a little deeper?
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of that probably has more to do with, I would say it's two sides of the same coin. In the Northwest, people are really hard to break. It's really hard to break the ice. People generally are pretty cold, not rude, but just, there's definitely a wall. And, we don't ask those questions. We don't go there yet. But then as you spend time and you're you're in the same proximity with each other for a period of time and the walls start to break down. Then when you establish depth in relationship, you're friends for life. And here it seems like it's kind of the opposite, where you can go pretty deep pretty quick on the surface level. But then when you get to a certain point, it's like, no, we're not ready for that. And it takes a long time to establish trust. And there have been a few friends that we've made that are, from the South, that we're just starting to feel like, okay, we're getting there. And that's really cool.
And maybe it's a territorial thing.
Could be.
People have been here for, X amount of years. You have all these people coming from all over the place.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, hold on. This is my spot here.
That's
Come
true.
on.
Absolutely. Well, and I remember there was a thread on your Facebook group a while ago. And I noticed there was a lot of people that were from the area commenting about the number of people moving from, out of town, out of state, even other parts of Tennessee, and, missing the way things used to be. Yeah. And it just, as it goes, as anything grows, as any town expands, there's going to be things that change. And, for us, we didn't expect that moving to Spring Hill. Honestly, we were planning on moving somewhere in Nashville proper or Franklin area. But we just happened to find the house that we're in now, and we absolutely love it here. I didn't think that I wanted to be this far south from Nashville. But after landing here and realizing, man, this is an amazing city. It's really unique in that the community, in fact, I was talking to Jim McCarthy about this the other day.
Oh yeah, our friend Jim.
Mm-hmm. And the great voiceover artist, Jim
our other competition.
Our other competition. You're the guy that sets you up every week. That it seems like I've never been in a town where there's such a vibrant, interactive community on a Facebook, on any series of Facebook groups.
True. Yeah. We are really a virtually connected community.
Very much so. Yeah. And so it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of, everyone knows it. There's a lot of downside, or there could be a lot of downside to it, but also there's a lot of upside to it. And you can see people out and you kind of feel like you have a connection with them because of maybe some comment or some discussion that's being had in one of the many Facebook groups. But there is a sense of, even though the traffic is bad and there's things that are not comfortable and maybe inconvenient, that we at least understand that our leadership recognizes that. They feel our pain. I didn't realize that Mayor Graham was not a full-time paid member on the city payroll, but he works a real job. He drives the same roads we drive, and he feels our pain. He's in the same Facebook groups that we're in. And so there is a sense of camaraderie with our city leadership that we still get to have. And that's a small town thing. Even though our city is growing and it's getting bigger, there still is that small town feel. And I think that's one thing that we do want to hang on to and preserve as long as we can, because then we have a sense of, hey, if I have a problem, someone actually will hear me. And
I just wrote him today. I had a question.
Yeah.
I texted him, and he texted me right back.
Yeah.
And
that's
found
great.
out what was going on. So yeah, he's really connected there. All right, so let's go ahead and give Spring Hill, Thompson Station area,
Okay.
The 10 stars. If you were to give it any kind of star rating up to 10, what are we looking at?
Is 10 good or bad?
10 is great.
Okay.
10 is wonderful.
What
the
are
best.
we weighing it against? Because there's a lot of things that I think could be ones and a lot that could be 9 or 10s.
All right, from where you come from.
Okay. Wow, that's a tough one. Man, I would say, okay, I'd have to start with the fact that we are in, where I came from, there was no metropolitan. We weren't a suburb of anything. We were just the city, and we were a suburb of the mountains pretty much. So, being a suburb of Nashville, there's a lot of perks to that. I would give it a 9 or a 10 on that side, because if I wanted to go, like tonight, we get to go down to Bridgestone and watch a concert. And that's something I didn't have access to. I love watching hockey. I grew up playing hockey in Montana, but we didn't have a professional team. I get to take my 5-6-year-old son with me to hockey games. And that's something that he's going to remember for the rest of his life, doing those things. So for that, I get to go to Nashville and do the things that big city folk get to do. But then I get to come home to a retreat town like Spring Hill. And so I think that's amazing. And I love that about living here. But I would say that the traffic, is is not the best, but it's certainly not terrible. And I think compared to other places in the country, I think the traffic is proportionate, is totally fine. It's understandable. You just kind of deal with it. And sometimes it's amazing. Sometimes it's a little congested. So I would say maybe overall, as far as from my experiences, I would give Spring Hill an 8 or a 9 as far as my experiences so far. Frankly, have no desire to leave. You know, I have no desire to move somewhere else. And because I work for myself, the opportunities are plentiful, and the connectivity to Franklin, Nashville, and then the regional markets is very, very positive. And there's a lot of creativity, a lot of opportunity for collaboration, a lot of opportunity for collaboration with your competition, you know, which is awesome. And people generally are excited about the prospect of connecting on some level. And I think that's even on a higher level, when you talk about like the music industry and the film industry, a lot of people that are in the professional music industries that have come from New York or LA will say the reason they landed in Nashville is because they get to do the same thing that they were doing in those towns on a much higher level and work with a lot of really good people. And that's not always the case in some of those other cities.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe at some point we can collaborate on a project.
Absolutely.
That was Peter Hartzell from Spring Hill. Check out his website at treehousemediaco.com. He's got a lot of cool stuff there. And now it's time for Price's Headlines. A local horse noticed you were running late today. Johnson Farm branded mare number 22 was grazing on her favorite patch of grass within the fenced property near Kreitz Lane along 431. When she became worried about not seeing you at your normal drive-by time of 7:42 a.m. She felt a wave of relief when she saw you fly by at 7:50, but felt, quote, a little bummed that you didn't notice her. In other news, local driver Martha Munson continues to feel guilty for telling a lie to the Murphy Station gas pump. She is seeking forgiveness after answering no to fuel dispenser number 8 after it asked if she was using a debit card, which she most certainly was. She claims that by utilizing the credit option, it gives her account more protection, but in her heart of hearts, she knows that even the whitest lie is still a lie. Sources close to Martha say she is putting in extra volunteer time and is using cash for gas from here on out, despite its inconvenience. And finally, the monster that's living under your bed fell asleep and rolled into the lava, never to be seen again. Now you can finally sleep tight. And those were your Price's Headlines. Now for the real headlines, let's check in with Chris Yao, managing editor of the Advertiser News of Spring Hill and Thompson Station. All right, we're going to be doing headlines a little differently this time because I'm actually at the Advertiser News of Spring Hill and Thompson Station, your new digs.
Yeah, man. We just moved into our office here at Northfield, and it's really cool being right across the hall from our Chamber of Commerce. Gives us a little bit of an insight to the business world, so that's kind of neat. And it's really a nice place. I like it.
You've got some big stories coming up in the newspaper, don't you?
Yes, we do. We'll talk first a little bit about 2 BOMA stories. A couple of big things come out of last Monday's BOMA meeting. Number one being that the Rippavilla contract is kind of up for debate, and BOMA seems to have some issues with their funding and trying to figure out how Rippavilla plans to increase tourism dollars, and their projected increases are much different than maybe the increases that they've actually seen over the past few years. And I think that's where a lot of the concern comes. But luckily, what I have seen from Rippavilla and in talking to Bill Benedict, who's on the Historical Commission and that sort of thing.
He'll be on the show a little later on, too.
Yeah, exactly. So you'll get a little bit of an understanding when you realize that Rippavilla is poised to become a Civil War trail site, an official site.
That's a big deal.
And that's a huge deal. And I think that's kind of where that massive jump in numbers is coming from. The tourism that particularly will bring is pretty big. And that's going to be something that we'll see, over the next couple months. They're going to get some signs. I know the Historical Commission is actually doing signs as well. So I think they're going to get 3 signs from the trail and 3 signs from the Historical Commission, which is already funded. So,
because how cool would that be to start at Rippavilla, kind of the start of the Battle of Franklin, really, and to go up the trail and end up in Franklin?
Yeah, see, I think a lot of people just bypass 2 of the most, important parts of the Battle of Franklin, and that is both the Battle of Spring Hill and the Battle of Thompson Station. I know the Battle of Thompson Station is just right there, right off of 31, and it's kind of a small little area, but both of those played a major part in the Battle of Franklin. So I think getting that little extra backstory of, the guy falling asleep and letting, the Union soldiers pretty much just pilgrimage through without much of a fight is pretty important. So getting that designation will really enhance the tourism experience for Rippavilla.
Looks like something is going on with the town center as well.
Yeah, speaking of Bill Benedict, he's on the town center task force as well, and they presented their first presentation to the BOMA last meeting as well. I think that's where this is one of those situations where everybody's really interested in where the town center is going to be and how do we make it a town center, because we don't have one. And essentially this is what the plan is, and I'm highly paraphrasing here, Bill, please don't be mad at me, but it's essentially making the old downtown, where the old school, Kissing House, the old fire station / town hall, it was everything, and making all of that walkable and connectable with what is going to be Kedron Square. And that's super important because with the new Kedron Square and all the new cool things, we need to find a way to connect it to the history of Spring Hill. And that's kind of their plan. Alicia Fitz is, loving the idea of keeping downtown kind of revitalized and maybe seeing some of the older buildings spruced up. I mean, you see Fireflies and you see Fainting Goat, and they're doing a lot of great things with this. So it's only going to get better once Kedron Square is finished, which is going to take a while, but it's going to be great.
All right. Well, those are the headlines this time. Thanks so much, Chris, for joining us and inviting me down to your new digs.
Yeah, it's really cool. And if you guys would like, come by our Northfield office. We have some papers out front if you don't get one, so feel free to grab a couple of papers out here and just come by and say hello, and we'll let you have some coffee or whatever, and just make sure you pick up the paper. Just want to throw out a quick cool little mention. There's a story in the paper about a local rock group. I don't know if you saw them. They posted on Facebook just a snippet of their new single called Checkmate, and the rock group is named Blue Ashes. They're awesome. The whole album is awesome. If you like rock music, it's one that you really want to pick up, and they live right here. You can find that story in the paper, and you can find the story and their video on our website at advertisernews.biz. So check it out.
Oh, very nice. Hey, maybe they'll be on the show.
Just give them a call.
All right. And come down and see Chris anytime. And they are at the Northfield Complex in entrance number 400.
Yes, it's entrance 400. You take a left, go like you would to the chamber office, and we're right across the hall from the chamber. So.
All right, Chris, thanks so much.
Absolutely.
All right, that was Chris Yao from the Advertiser News of Spring Hill and Thompson Station, our media sponsor. Hey, this show is also powered by In-House Digital Media, helping you elevate, educate, and expand your brand. And of course, it's presented by Price Sells Homes. Don't think twice. Call Carrie Price at 615-497-3317. Carrie Price, she's your Williamson County real estate expert. Still a lot left to get to in this show, but join us next time as Carrie joins us in the studio with another edition of her featured piece called Carrie's Calendar. So we'll see what's going on for the month of March next time. All right, everybody, it is time for yet another history lesson here on Price's Highway. And with me is Bill Benedict, the chairman of the Spring Hill Historic Commission. How are you doing, Bill?
I'm doing great, Steve. How are you?
Doing awesome. Hey, well, a lot of people have asked, and they're new here, where is the downtown? Was there ever a downtown in Spring Hill? Because we're kind of confused. And the answer is, of course, yes, but two major events really shaped what is now the downtown area. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. And, I think in our last conversation when we touched on, some of the history of the Kissing House, I said it was kind of a hidden gem, right? And I think a lot of people are confused or misled when you're driving down Main Street and you don't see a lot of these historic buildings, right? And you're correct. There is a very distinct downtown area, and there are hidden gems throughout downtown. We have multiple historic churches, cemeteries, significant architecture properties, etc. But there really are few and far between. And some of the main results or main reasons for that are some pretty tragic events that happened in the downtown area. The first major catastrophe was in the 1930s when the west side of Main Street, which at the time was populated with multiple businesses, had a major fire. And it destroyed most of the east side of downtown Main Street. There were just a few buildings that actually survived.
And back in those days, there's no fire department to come out and, get out the tower and start spraying. So it was
buckets
a lot of
and horses, right?
That's right. So it happened on a Sunday morning, right, where people were at church, and I've heard some stories about firsthand accounts of people who were in church and men coming in, taking people out, saying, "Hey, we gotta go get you." And then everybody's like, "Well, what's going on? What's going on?" And the kids weren't allowed to go out in some circumstances, but. Tell us a little bit more about that fire and just kind of the devastation it had in that area.
Yes, it was quite a tragic event. The losses to the local businesses were considerable, and it actually spread onto what is currently the children's home. And there were a few buildings that were destroyed at that site as well. There's stories of you touched on people being in church. When the fire was occurring, one of the more unique stories around Grace Episcopal Church is, the altar and altar rail are hand-carved pieces that are pretty significant heirlooms for Spring Hill history. But at the time, they wanted to save that, and there was orders given to a local girl that if the fire reached the church to actually take the axe and cut those pieces out.
Wow. And that is the church with the red door right there on Main Street and Duplex, right?
Correct. Yes, that's Grace Episcopal Church, and it was built in the 1878. It's another great example of Carpenter Gothic architecture, so it's kind of like a sister property to the Kissing House.
Okay, so that was in the 1930s, and then not too many decades later, something else devastating happened to that downtown area. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so in January 10th, 1963, there was a major tornado that struck the downtown Spring Hill area as well. It essentially crossed at the intersection of Main and Duplex. And there was devastation up to, I think, $500,000 at that time.
Which, in today's dollars, that's really high.
It's considerably, yes. I think it's something like 2.6 million.
Yeah.
With inflation. And it's pretty amazing, that was actually quite a populated area with businesses and motels, etc. And it's pretty amazing because nobody was actually, there were no fatalities in the event. In the newspaper, it does kind of laughingly say that there were some victims, but they were actual cattle on a farm. So that was pretty interesting. And I think that's, those two major events have really played a part in, it presented a challenge to having a centralized downtown. As stated, there's a lot of unique locations that still, have thrived through, those tragedies. But, I think that knowing of these locations is very important to, establishing an identity in a downtown.
Absolutely. Well, Bill, thank you so much for being on this episode and looking forward to many more.
I appreciate it, Steve. Thanks for having me.
All right, my next guest is, I call him Mr. Barbecue. He runs CD's Barbecue, and if you haven't had it, you need to try it. In fact, whenever we have a party here at our house, we usually get him to cater it because it's that dang delicious. Chris was nice enough to come by the Price is Highway studio right after an eye appointment with his eyes fully dilated. So here we go. Hope you enjoy this interview. Chris Davis is in the Price is Highway studio. Chris, how are you?
I'm good, and you?
Doing well. Yeah.
It took long enough to make this happen, but here we are.
Yeah. How many phone calls did we have? About 19?
1, 2. Just kidding. Yeah, it was
no,
quite
because
a bit.
you've been very busy. I tried to get you on the show in the October-November time frame, and you were
good luck.
slammed.
Yeah. Anytime before that, man, it's just, it was, I'm here now, though.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about the 3 Bs. We'll talk about bodybuilding. We'll talk about barbecue, and we'll talk about baseball. How about that?
Man.
Yeah.
It's almost like you know me or something, man.
Just kind of.
Just a little bit.
So let's go back to the beginning. You are from Lewisburg, correct?
Absolutely.
Born and raised.
Born and raised.
All right. So
Go
what?
Tigers.
So okay. So what was your first gig? What was your first job ever?
First job ever. Oh, man. Well, I used to work for my dad. He was a brick and block mason, and I think I started with him when I was 6 years old. And gosh, man, I was working for him for maybe so I was about 21.
Okay.
And then after that, mowing yards, collecting cans, just really doing anything to, make money. And then I got my first real job was when I was 15, my sophomore year in high school. I got a job at Superama and
Superama. Oh, yeah.
Tegan Superama.
So what were you doing there?
Oh man, dude, I was bagging groceries.
Yeah, everything.
Everything, man. Yeah. Then I actually got a little promotion. I was the office manager, and
Telling people what to do now, huh?
yeah, I guess you could say.
But the public always tells you what to do, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Paper or plastic, man.
Yeah.
That's,
Okay, so what were some of like the life lessons you learned? Because there had to have been some life lessons learned in a grocery store because that's where life happens.
Absolutely. I'd probably say the biggest thing that I learned is how to communicate with people, man.
Sure.
Because, no matter what happens when somebody walks through that door, they could be having the worst day of their life, or they could be having a good day, and you just don't know. And I do remember one day I was checking this guy out, and he was like, one thing you need to learn is when you talk to people, you need to learn how to, you need to mean it. If you ask somebody how their day is going, don't just ask them and go through the motions. If somebody's having a bad day, actually care. And and I think that's one of the biggest things that I picked up on that. I was about, 16 years old, I believe, at the time. And, and the older I got, I just realized, there's, people need people, and, we need to know that people matter. And what better place than a grocery store? You see, all different kinds of people walk through that door. And, if all you have to do is ask somebody, hey, how are you doing? And they, they could start smiling. They could punch you in the mouth, so it's,
that usually happens everywhere I go.
Right. And I've had to contain myself a couple of times, but I like you, so no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, and that's been my, biggest takeaway from working at the grocery store, man. And, and also, how to manage people. And, and that's something else I'll probably talk about later is, with my experience in coaching is just, realizing how to, manage people and all the different personalities and things like that.
Yeah,
man.
great lesson to learn when you're that young. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you went from the Superama.
Right.
Where are we going now?
So let's fast forward to 2007. And so that's when I graduated college.
Okay.
And we fast forward to 2007, and then we'll rewind probably 4 weeks before I graduate.
Wait a minute. In college, didn't you have like a famous roommate?
Yes. So his name is Joey Graney. He
Yeah.
was he's the strength and conditioning coach for at the time he was with the Royals, and now he's with the Tampa Bay Rays.
There you go.
So yeah, he's another person that's very special to me and changed my life when I was in college, and I love that guy to death, man. He's a really good guy, and really opened my eyes as far as like, you know, workouts and just, you know, how to, you know, carrying yourself, and you know, as far as like nutrition and everything goes. So he's highly recommended, man. So
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, so,
No,
so
that's
you,
okay. That's
so
okay.
what college did you go to?
Martin Methodist College. I played 4 years of baseball there, and graduated, and so my degree is in sports management with a concentration in health and nutrition, and so we are in 2007, and we're gonna rewind to probably about 4 to 6 weeks before I graduated, and we're having our conference tournament, and I think we're playing Union University, and my mentor was like, "Hey, Chris, do you have a internship lined up yet?" I was like, "No, for what?" You know, he was like, "Well, if you want to graduate, you got to have an internship." I was like, "Dude, I ain't got no darn internship, man." So I was like, "Well, let me call some people up right quick." So, you know, I had some people that
Call up a couple guys.
you know, so I called the Predators. I was like, "Hey, do y'all have any internships open?" They're like, "No, we're full." I called the Sounds, and I was like, "Do y'all have anything?" They're like, "No, we're full." I was like, "What do you mean you're full? This is 4 weeks before I graduate. You're supposed to have something lined up for me."
Yeah, come on, man. What are you
And
doing?
so they didn't have anything, and so the gym that I had used for about 4 years was called Harvey's Gym, and so I knew the manager there, so I called her, and I was like, "Miss Darlene, please tell me that you have a need for a management intern." She's like, "Yeah, absolutely." I was like, "Hallelujah!"
man.
You know, so we got that lined up, and then so we ended up getting beat. And my mentor was like, "Well, you need to get your paperwork signed and, you know, everything filled out so we can get you, you know, get you ready to graduate."
Yeah.
I was like, "All right." So we get everything lined up, and everything started, you know, going as planned. And I walked in my first day, and, you know, she was like, "All right, you need to, the tanning beds need cleaning." And I was like, "Miss Darlene, I have no idea about a tanning bed." And she was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "I don't use tanning beds, man." And
Chris, why don't you use a tanning bed?
they're not good for your skin.
Yeah,
So, sorry about that. Anyways,
Enjoy your lovely beverage.
right.
We'll wait.
That's right. So yeah, you're crazy, man. So, you know, I'm cleaning the tanning beds.
You know, that's the nicest thing you ever said to me.
Right. So the tanning beds are clean, the treadmills are clean, and, you know, I'm, you know, going around talking to people, asking how their experience is so far, yada, yada, yada. So fast forward probably about a few weeks in, she's like, I need you to start helping me train people. I was like, I have zero interest in training people. I'm here for a management internship, and, you know, next. She's
Clock in, clock out.
Clock
Yeah,
in,
yeah.
clock out. Let me do my thing, and, you know, out the door. She was like, "So what is your main goal with this internship?" I was like, "I want to, you know, probably own a gym, you know, own a baseball team or something to that nature." And she was like, "How are you going to, you know, manage a gym if you don't know how to train people, manage people, and, you know, go that route?" And
Did you say, "Well, you know, I worked at the Superama"?
I was like, "Dude, I'm ready to go. You know, Superama has given me everything that I need to be successful in life." And so she's like, "Okay, well, you know, when you come in tomorrow, we'll talk about it." I was like, "Okay." So, you know, tomorrow comes, I show up, and I have 8 people on my schedule to train. I was like, "Miss Darlene, what are you doing?" She's like, "I'm not asking you anymore. I'm telling you, and from that point forward, I fell in love with it, and that's been my, I've been training professionally for about 12 years now, and I think the last 8 years I've had my own business, and man, it's been amazing, and it's like I said, I can't. You can't really put a price on it. Oh, you see what I did there? You can't put a price on it. And it just kind of slipped out, sorry. And I mean, I love it, man. And I've got some of the, hands down, the best clients. I know every trainer says it, but I really mean it. I have people I try to get rid of, and they keep coming back, and I don't know why, but it's been one of the best experiences I've had, man. And so.
Well, it must be kind of cool seeing somebody transform, within months, just because of the training schedule you put them on.
Right. Yeah, it's
going to be inspiring.
It is, man, and that's what keeps me going, because they rely on me to help get them, to where they need to be, and and I push them pretty hard, and and they've man. Yeah, I feel sorry for them sometimes, man. But they've, they put in the work and everything, and it's, I can. There's a saying that you can't out-train a bad diet, and that is true. And so I really try to, get them to focus a whole lot on their nutrition, because that's where most of your results are going to come from. You can't just eat a plate full of brownies and and go over here and run a mile. It's just not going to work like that. But yeah, I've been able to work with some of the some great trainers. Courtney English has been one of my partners for some of the longest time, and we played baseball together. And he was one of my roommates, and in college, and then we've grown up in the fitness world. And he got me to do a fitness competition one year, and man, that's a whole different animal. And I did it once, and that was a one and done. And he's still living that lifestyle, and he's a machine, man. So salute to him, because that's yeah.
Well, I noticed you're wearing a Patriot baseball jersey here.
Yes.
It's not a jersey. It's kind of just jersey shirt. But,
yeah, I wear my jersey everywhere I go. Yeah, this is a 3/4 sleeve.
Well, you knew you were coming over, so dress up for me.
Right.
So the Patriots, that's Page, right?
Page Patriots, correct.
That's, for the folks at home who don't know, that's in Franklin, Tennessee, just right up the road.
Absolutely. So I was at work one day, man, and I was like, I got to get back into baseball at some point. And so I sent my resume out to about 50 schools in Middle Tennessee, just asking if if there was a need for a strength coach or a coach, or and so I got 4 emails back, and one of them said no, one of them said no, one of them said yes. And that one that said yes was Paige. And so I was like, sweet.
Baseball is your passion, though, right?
Absolutely, man. I've been playing baseball since I was 4 years old, and I haven't missed a year yet. I'm still playing right now, and not as many games, but I try to go out, and play 5 to 8 games, or however many games my wife will let me. And so I go out and I still play, and now it's it's still competitive. But I still, go out just to, stay in shape and, be around the guys. And I love it, man.
But what is it like working with the kids?
So first of all, Coach Rutan, I can't thank him enough, man. He gave me an opportunity that, a bunch of people, either said no, or, I got looked over for an opportunity to coach. And but Paige has been one of the biggest blessings in my life, because I was able to work with these guys. And you have some kids driving four-wheel drive these diesel trucks, and then you've got some kids driving BMWs, and so they're completely different. And I was like, how in the world am I going to get these guys to buy in on us winning a baseball game?
Super Rama.
You know, yeah, exactly. So we're going to go back to my Super Rama days. How are you going to manage
Exactly.
two people who have nothing in common and to get them to buy in on either paper or plastic, you know? So,
No, but it's true because, I mean, if you didn't have that job, how would you have, trained these kids?
right.
Right?
You know, and so, you know, and, you know, we took some, that, I think it's I forgot the name of it, but there's a coaches clinic put on by the MLB. And we went there, and all these major league coaches are there talking about their experiences and how to what worked for them, what didn't work for them, and they were like, "Well, take our experience and make it your own." And so, year one, man, I was so nervous, and because I'm from Lewisburg, and Page were big rivals growing up, and so we. We played against Page and huge district rivals. And so I'm going in, I'm like, all right, tippy-toeing, I'm like, all right, do they really know that I'm from Lewisburg? That that I'm from there, and so, year one, we're playing my old high school, and I'm like, God, it just feels so weird being on the other side, and so I was like, I had to take that mindset and put it aside and realize, like, I'm here to help these kids turn them from boys to men. And,
Great group, by the way.
And yeah, they're heavy metal, right? That's more my style. So, and so, it was, all in all, man, it was one of the best experiences. And I still, talk to these kids, and they've already graduated and moved on. And, one of them is playing at MTSU right now, Peyton Wigginton. He's a great kid. Christian Tidmore, he's a firefighter now, and he's, if I needed something right now, I could ask him, and he would be there within 10 minutes. He's just one of those guys, man, and it's the relationships that you build, and and keep in touch with these guys, over a period of time, and just seeing them grow, and but baseball is just a bonus, and you can only play for so long. And it's, what you do, the sport gives you so much. And at some point when you stop playing, you gotta give back. And I think Ryan Washington from the Braves said that, he was like, you give baseball your all. And at some point, it'll get, you gotta get back, so, and so that's why I felt like, when I was at work that day, I was like, I got to get back into baseball, and it's been, part of my life since I was 4 years old, and, my son, he'll be 5, pretty soon. So, and, I think he likes it just as much as I do. So, he's got no choice really, but
How did you get from baseball to barbecue? Because folks, if you just take anything from this, call him for his barbecue. It's CD's Barbecue, and talk about the transition, to barbecue.
So, it was, I want to say about 9 years ago, a buddy of mine, David Zimmerly, he was like, you ever thought about, making barbecue? And I was like, I like it. I can, I'll look into it. Yeah. So we're sitting here, and he was like, well, if you ever, have any questions when you do one, let me know. When I say do one, do a shoulder, so, or a butt. So, we were sitting here, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to try one this weekend. So I got it going. I was texting David, and I'm like, hey, man, what about this? What about that? And, man, I probably blew his phone up 20, 30 times at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, I'm sorry, man. He was like, no, I told you. Here we go. So we're, sitting down there, and, man, so my daughter had her first birthday party, and so I cooked some barbecue for that. And you ever had a shoe from Payless?
Have I ever eaten a shoe from Payless?
Yeah, you ever tried it?
Twice.
Twice? Okay, so you have
soul food.
So yes, I see what you did there. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So
I'm here all week. Don't forget to tip your waitresses on the way out.
Yeah, right. So that's kind of what it tasted like, man. And it was, man, it was. I didn't think it really tasted as good, and so I was like, I need to, figure out what I did wrong. And so from that birthday party, I had like 6 other little catering gigs pop up, and man, from that point, it just kind of, whenever your hobbies kind of take over and it becomes like I guess a full-time job.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Put a lot of time into it now.
Yes. I mean, and man, it just, I blink a couple times, man. And it just, gosh, it really, like I said, that was about 7 or 8 years ago. And here we are now, man. And, so I don't know if you like researched this or not, but I'm sure you did.
Sure I did. Yeah.
But
lots of research, hours of research.
Hours and hours.
Yeah.
But I think it's either this or next week will be my first full year having a food truck.
Wow.
Yeah.
Get you. Congratulations.
Oh, thanks, man. And it's, that was probably one of the best birthday presents ever, man. Because one of my clients, Bob Clark, he told me, he was like, quit dragging your feet. And if, this is something that you want to do, let me know, and I hope you get it started. And and you meet people along the way. I'll tell you they'll do something, but they don't pull the trigger. And he was like, "Well, if you don't stop dragging your feet, I'm backing out." And I'm like, "Oh, this dude's serious," And so we talked about it, and and then I ran it by Jessie, which is my wife, and she was like, "Oh, I guess, all right." So we said, "All right," and we looked a few more weeks, and we found a good fit, and man, it blew up, man. And I think this past September we had 11 events or something crazy like that.
Yeah, you couldn't even get you on the show, like I said. You're a busy guy, and you're also doing the farmers market too over in Nolensville as well.
Nolensville Farmers Markets, and this upcoming year we'll probably have the Franklin Farmers Market a couple times.
Oh, wow, very cool.
Just schools. Back to school bash at Bethesda. We have the fall festival at Bethesda, the fall festival at College Grove, Fun Fridays back in Lewisburg. So yeah, man, it was, it's just been, gosh. And the real reason why I got into it, man, is, I guess I'm a people person, and people just don't communicate anymore, and I just went back to the 2 things that, get people communicating is good food and sports. Those are the 2 things that, get people together. They put their differences aside and they're able to focus on one thing in that moment. And I was like, well, if there's anything that I can do to kind of not change the world, but, at that point in time, if I can get 2 people who don't know each other to communicate, put their differences aside, and just start talking to each other, get to know each other, and that way that they can see each other as a person, and not just judge people, but if they're eating bad barbecue, they can judge each other. But no, but and that's I used to work for my dad, and now he kind of helps me when he can or whatnot, and just watching the grill, and it gives me time to spend time with him, and and it's just kind of just one of those things you kind of fall into. Like, I had no interest in training people, and here I am 12 years later, still doing it. And if it wasn't for David Zimmerly kind of, bring it to my attention, then not sure if I'd even be doing this right now, or, I wouldn't be having this podcast with you right now.
That's right.
Yeah. So, it's just been, like I said, a chance to get out and meet people and, talk to people, and, everything is text message, phone, emails, or, social media, and all that stuff is fine and dandy and all, man. But, whenever you don't talk to people, and, people need people, we need human interaction. And, and I think that's why, there's so much, crazy going in the world, man, because just people don't communicate. And back to again, Superama, that guy when I was 15 years old told me, when you talk to somebody, actually, mean it. Just don't go through the motions. If you ask somebody how their day is, be ready to, if they're having a bad day, be ready to, hear about it. And you don't have to, provide them with the answers. Just, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You need to listen twice as much as you talk.
CD's Barbecue. People can find you on Facebook.
Facebook, yes, that's CD's. It's CD''S BBQ.
Kind of like Chris Davis Barbecue.
Yeah, there you go.
Just like that.
Yeah. Man, I didn't think about doing it like that. Yeah,
that's why they pay me the big bucks, Chris.
That's right. And then my cell phone number is 931-637-9154. And I'm also on Instagram, which is CDS_BBQ. And then my Twitter is BBQCDS.
Chris, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I think you've inspired a lot of people out there.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me out here. And I'm sorry it took me so long to get out here, man. And I'm just glad that we were able to, link up and get out here and get it done. So, but I do have one more question for you.
No, jeez.
This whole segment, why has your hand been on my knee? Are you still?
I'm needy.
Yeah,
just a little needy. All right, Chris. Thanks so much.
Absolutely, thank you, man. And I'm very proud of you and what you've accomplished so far. And keep it up, man.
Well, thanks.
Yes, sir.
All right, everybody. Well, that just about does it for this episode of Price is High with the podcast. Can you believe we've done 9 of these already? Wow. Hey, thanks for tuning in. And if you're new to the show, or if you just want to get more and more episodes right when they come out, go ahead and smash that subscribe button, and that'll happen for you. I want to thank my guests for being on the show today. Also want to thank our presenting sponsor, Carey Price at Price Sells Homes. Don't think twice. Call Carey Price at 615-497-3317. That number again is 615-497-3317. Carey Price, your Williamson County real estate expert. And the show's powered by In-House Digital Media, helping you elevate, educate, and expand your brand. Learn more about In-House Digital Media at inhousedigitalmedia.com. All right, that does it for this episode. We will see you next time. Buckle up and stay safe out there.
You've been listening to Price's Highway, a Steve Price Totally Terrible podcast production.